While walking alone, she faced a man's grip. What he revealed transformed her life forever. Jessica felt the weight of the world on her shoulders as she stepped out of her small house, glancing back at the warm glow of her home. It was just another ordinary evening, the street lights flickering to life as the sun slipped below the horizon, but tonight felt different. She needed this walk, her escape from the endless cycle of work and motherhood, a breath of fresh air in her hectic life. But as she moved along the familiar paths, lost in her thoughts, a sudden grip on her arm jolted her back to reality. Her heart raced, but relief flooded in when she recognized the kindly face of Mr. Thompson, the retired veteran from the neighborhood. "What are you doing out here all alone?" he asked, concern etched on his weathered face. Jessica felt a mix of fear and hope. He had always been a quiet presence, his struggles known to all but rarely discussed. "I just needed to clear my head," she replied cautiously, her voice barely above a whisper. As they started talking, she listened intently to his tales of resilient stories of overcoming hardships, of people who had doubted him, that mirrored her own struggles as a single mother. Each word he spoke wrapped around her heart like a warm blanket. "You have a story too, Jessica," he said, his eyes lighting up with unexpected fervor. "You have a gift for writing that can inspire others. Sharing it could make a difference, could connect you with other parents who feel just as lost." Jessica felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, but self-doubt snuffed it out almost immediately. Could she really share her life? But as Mr. Thompson encouraged her, his faith in her unraveled the knots of insecurity that had tied her spirit down. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With each evening after that conversation, she found herself pouring her heart into blog posts, sharing her journey, the late nights spent at the office, the laughter she shared with her son, the tears in the quiet moments of solitude. Slowly, something incredible happened. People began to respond, drawn to her words like moths to a flame, connecting over shared experiences. She was no longer alone, and for the first time, she glimpsed a future beyond her role as a tired mother. But as her blog gained traction, the judgment from others seeped in. At a local charity event meant to uplift the community, whispers filled the air, people questioning who she was to rise above others when nothing had really changed. Just when she felt her confidence wavering, she received a handwritten letter from her son. His words sparkled with admiration and love, adoring her simple yet powerful existence. She tuned back into her heart, realizing that her worth was more than their judgments. As she tucked the letter into her pocket, she stood at a crossroad, feeling the journey of self-acceptance stretch before her. Would she confront the biases that sought to silence her? The question hung heavy in the evening air. What truly defines success in a world all too eager to label? Jessica took a deep breath, her heart steadying, knowing the next step would reshape her journey forever. The next morning arrived with the soft light filtering through Jessica's window, slicing through the remnants of an anxious night filled with dreams of judgment and triumph. She lay in bed, her son's letter still freshly tucked in her pocket, the weight of its love pulling at her heartstrings. It was a time for action, she decided, a time to step beyond the gossip and reclaim her voice. Gathering courage, she took out her laptop and opened her blog. The blank screen stared back, a challenge more than a companion. But instead of fear, she felt the warm ember of determination glow inside her. She began to type fiercely, every word infused with her journey and the triumphs and trials others rarely discussed. Today, she would write not just for herself, but also for those who needed a friend in the darkness. As she penned her thoughts, she recounted her struggles, each line a tribute to her resilience. She shared her fears, her regrets, the moments she almost gave up, and the strength she found in unexpected places like from Mr. Thompson's encouragement and the love from her son. With every keystroke, she felt lighter, as if she was shedding the weight of others' perceptions. When she finally hit publish, an exhilarating rush coursed through her veins. What if no one read it? What if they did? Doubts lingered, but she took a deep breath and decided to lean into the uncertainty. Whatever came next would only make her stronger. The notifications began trickling in, one after another. Messages of support, stories of shared struggles, and women reaching out to say that her words resonated deeply. Jessica's heart swelled with joy. This was what she had sought, the connection that reminded her she was not alone. Yet, there were also the more biting comments, the ones that aimed to cut. "Who cares what you think?" and "Real mothers don't complain," echoed in a cacophony of negativity. Each one felt like a jab, and Jessica's mind drifted back to that charity event, the stares, the whispers. But something had shifted. The love from her son, the support from strangers who connected with her story fortified her. She wrote a response to her critics, not one filled with anger or defensiveness, but one that showed understanding. For every critical voice, there's another that seeks hope. Let us carry each other through. As the days rolled on, Jessica created a series based on reader interactions, focusing on different themes of motherhood, resilience, and finding joy in everyday moments. People began submitting their stories too, a beautiful exchange of vulnerability and strength. This collaboration gave Jessica a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just sharing her journey but building a community. But while the blog flourished, a shadow clung to the edges of her happiness. A reminder of the voices judging from afar, and the nagging question crept back. Was it enough? Would this be the change she longed for? One evening, she received a message that sent a chill down her spine, an anonymous note dismissing her work as simply attention-seeking. Jessica clenched her fists, heat flooding her cheeks. The old fears echoed loudly. Did they see her? Did they even care? Just as she considered abandoning the space she had cultivated, a notification popped up. It was from Mr. Thompson, and he had written, "The world needs your light, Jessica. Keep shining even when the darkness calls you back." His words wrapped around her like a protective cloak. In that moment, she felt a radical shift. Maybe the question of enough was not just about her work but the journey of self-acceptance she had to complete. She stood at the cusp of a bold new chapter, ready to unveil the truth about herself, a truth that had been hidden away for far too long. With newfound clarity, she made a decision. It was time to confront those voices head-on. Jessica stared at the glowing screen, her heart pounding. Would she be brave enough to reveal everything, her deepest fears, her battles, and all the ways she had been silenced? As she began to type, she knew what she wanted to say. Would this finally unlock the empowerment she sought, or would it open a floodgate she wasn't prepared for? The words began to flow, leading her into uncharted territory. As Jessica's fingers danced across the keyboard, a tide of confessions washed over her. Each word merged with a memory, pulling her deeper into the past she had long tried to forget. She started with the moment she first felt dismissive glances at playdates, the whispers that would follow her. The feeling of isolation was raw, yet it resonated deeply. The way those stares made her small, stripped her of her voice, but she pushed through, revealing how she stumbled through the journey of motherhood, clinging to a sense of self while attempting to fit into a mold she had never agreed to wear. "I've learned not to be defined by others' standards," she wrote. "I am a work in progress, forever evolving. I am here, flawed but unyielding." The words flowed like water after a long drought, pouring out her insecurities, struggles with anxiety, and that fateful day when she faced the judgmental remarks at the charity event. She wrote about how her son had seen her in that moment of vulnerability. He hadn't seen a failure, but a hero fighting against the tide of truth she often overlooked. As she wrote, she felt as if she was shaking off chains that had bound her for years. Her heart raced with both trepidation and exhilaration. Would her truth set her free, or just open her up to more wounds? Yet, she kept typing, fueled by those who rallied behind her, who made her feel like she was no longer alone in this fight. Just as she finished one section, a knock at the door interrupted her flow. Startled, she closed her laptop and stood. She wasn't expecting anyone, but her pulse quickened with curiosity. Cautiously, she opened the door, revealing a face she hadn't seen in weeks. "Jessica," Mr. Thompson smiled, leaning on the doorframe. "I read your latest post, and I had to come by. You're not just a blogger, you're a revolutionary." His words wrapped around her, igniting an embarrassed blush. "I wanted to tell you, you've sparked something. I'm behind you." His eyes shone with sincerity, and for the first time, she felt seen beyond her flaws, beyond the mother she was trying to be. They talked, and with each moment, she felt that pressure of the world fade, and her spirit buoyed. It turned into a friendly exchange. They laughed, shared ideas, and for the first time, she saw him not just as a mentor but as a friend who really got her. But just as the conversation flowed, he turned serious. "You know, Jessica, there was a time I faced a lot of judgment too. It was during a moment when I realized I wasn't living for myself, when I took someone else's criticism too seriously." His gaze shifted to the floor, and she felt the room contract around them, the moment thickening with something unspoken. "What happened?" Jessica asked softly. "Damar." Thompson looked back up, a deep sadness mingling with wisdom. "I lost a part of my life to their judgment. But it took a lot of self-reflection to understand I was stronger than their words. And you will realize that too, if you continue to write your truth without fear." Jessica held his gaze, feeling a connectivity she had never expected. She wanted to dive deeper into his story, but before she could formulate her question, his phone buzzed, interrupting the intimacy of the moment. He checked it quickly, his face tightening. "I have to go." He hesitated, glancing at her, the unspoken camaraderie hanging thick in the air. "Just remember, your story matters. Write for those who can't." With that, he turned and left, leaving her in a whirlwind of emotions. Jessica felt inspiration surging within her as she returned to the screen. The confrontation with her own vulnerabilities now felt like stepping stones towards something bigger. She prepared to unveil the deepest parts of herself, knowing it would take courage but also strength. But as she began to type about Mr. Thompson's words, the flicker of the screen dimmed. She froze, the notification bar lighting up with a new message. Her heart thrummed in anticipation. Who was it this time? More support? Another critic? As she opened it, an icy chill swept through her. A familiar name surfaced, one she had dreaded seeing again, sending a sharp pang through her stomach. "We need to talk," it read. Would this end her growing confidence, or would it become another chance to reclaim her strength? Jessica bit her lip, her fingers hovering over the keys, uncertain yet compelled. What awaited her next could ignite or shatter everything she had built. Jessica stared at her screen, each letter swimming in a haze of anxious energy. The words "we need to talk" loomed over her like a cloud waiting to burst. She exhaled slowly, trying to steady herself. Thoughts raced through her mind, flipping between dread and defiance. Just when she had started to find her voice, the past stirred to life again. Her heart raced not just out of anxiety, but with a whisper of urgency. What could this person want? She had spent so long trying to distance herself from the judgments that haunted her. Did they want to confront her about her blog? Were they stirring trouble again? On a whim, she clicked the user's profile picture. There it was, the face from a time in her life that felt distant yet acutely resonant. It was Lisa, an old acquaintance from a parenting group that had once felt like a safe haven but had become a space of scrutiny. Memories of their interactions flickered back as she remembered the smirks and dismissive glances. The very reason she had stopped attending those meetings. Taking a deep breath, Jessica summoned courage to reply, her fingers trembling as she typed back, "What do you want to talk about?" She hit send and felt a weight shift, that slight sense of control returning. The minutes felt like hours as she waited, her heart drumming a nervous rhythm against her ribcage. Then her phone buzzed again. Lisa had responded almost immediately. "Can we meet? I promise it's important." With that simple sentence, a rush of emotions surged within her. Hope flickered, but so did fear. What could Lisa truly want? Was this a bridge she was willing to cross? She could choose to ignore it, pretend it didn't exist. She had fought hard to establish her worth beyond others' perceptions, but avoidance had never really worked for her. Then an image of Mr. Thompson's words wrapped around her thoughts like a warm blanket. Right for those who can't. Perhaps this meeting could become part of her story too, an opportunity rather than a setback. She could step into the light, face the shadows, and maybe find a resolution she hadn't even realized she was seeking. "I'll meet you," she finally typed, steadying her fingers. "Tomorrow at the cafe." As soon as she hit send, a mix of nausea and relief washed over her. There it was, commitment to face her past head-on. The next morning, anticipation churned in her stomach as she walked into the cafe, the smell of coffee wrapping around her like a comforting hug. Jessica chose a table in the corner, her hands shaking slightly around her cup of chai. She had always sought solace in tea, a welcome ritual before facing hard conversations. Every passing minute felt weighted with uncertainty until, finally, Lisa walked in. Her expression was unreadable. Jessica marveled for a quick moment at how the years had aged them both, yet they still held on to vestiges of familiarity. "Thanks for agreeing to meet," Lisa said, her voice softer than Jessica remembered. The defenses built over time flickered for a moment, and Jessica felt herself soften as well. "Let's just get this over with," she replied, carefully shelving her apprehension. The conversation began tentatively, with small talk that served merely as a bridge to the main issue at hand. With each minute that passed, fragments of vulnerability surfaced. Lisa spoke about how she had struggled with her own judgments, echoes of the same dismissals Jessica had faced. Slowly, the edges of Lisa's stance began to soften, revealing corners of hurt that weren't just her own. "I'm sorry for the comments I made in the past," Lisa finally said, eyes flickering with sincerity. "I didn't realize how deeply those words could wound. I was projecting my insecurities onto you." Jessica felt something give way inside her. It wasn't about absolution, it was about understanding and the willingness to be seen. "Thank you," she replied, heart racing with a mixture of unexpected gratitude and cautious optimism. "I think we've all felt that pressure to judge instead of support." As the conversation unfolded, Jessica recognized that this moment held more lessons than she had anticipated. They were two women, both navigating their complicated arcs of motherhood and self-worth. It was a common ground, a space where healing could begin, but just as they began to delve into deeper conversations, Jessica's phone buzzed again, drawing her attention away from Lisa's words. She glanced down. It was a message from Mr. Thompson. "I need to see you. Urgent." Jessica's breath caught in her throat. What could this possibly mean? She felt the threads of her reality pulling tighter, each connection woven into a tapestry of transformation. Would she balance the delicate lines of hope and fear? As she looked back at Lisa, a mixture of clarity and confusion washed over her. What was it that awaited her once more? Would she step into this new chapter with both courage and curiosity? The answers were just beyond her reach, waiting to unfold. Jessica's heart was a drum in her chest, pounding with the weight of uncertainty as she wrestled with her thoughts. The warmth of the cafe faded into the background. Lisa's gaze was steady, but her own mind drifted, fixated on the urgent message from Mr. Thompson. What did he want? Was it related to her blog, or something more personal? Doubt crept in, dark and insistent, like shadows beneath her table. Lisa cleared her throat, pulling Jessica's attention back into the conversation. "You okay?" Her voice was soothing, yet Jessica heard a hint of concern layered within it. "Yeah, just a message from someone," Jessica replied, biting her lip. She thought about sharing her dilemma, but the urge to confide fluttered away. Could she trust Lisa? The past loomed, heavy with mistrust, yet there was a part of her that ached to bridge the distance. "Everything all right?" Lisa pressed gently. Jessica hesitated. But suddenly, she felt the urge to take a risk, to peel back some of her protective layers. "It's Mr. Thompson," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "He wants to see me. Says it's urgent." Lisa's expression morphed into something softer, more empathetic. That sounds serious, she said, her eyes reflecting the understanding they both had of being pulled between worlds, one of hope and another of hurt. Is it about your writing? Jessica nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. I'm not sure. I think he might be well, he has always been kind of a mentor. I just hope he is not going to criticize me more. I've already got so much on my plate. The weight of those words hung in the air like the coffee steam swirling around them, fragile yet real. Lisa reached across the table, her hand brushing against Jessica's. Maybe he only wants to help. You've been doing great things, Jessica, and sometimes, growth requires the push from someone who believes in us. Jessica studied Lisa's face, searching for any hint of insincerity. But all she found was a supportive smile. Thank you, she breathed, feeling a flicker of that old hope kindling within her. It felt weird, but somehow reassuring to be in this moment with someone who understood. But just then, she felt her phone vibrate again. With trembling fingers, she looked down to see another message from Mr. Thompson. Can we meet now? It read, her heart sank. I have to go, Lisa, she said, suddenly feeling trapped. I really don't know what he wants, and I'm scared. Hey, Lisa said, steadying her gaze again. You don't have to do this alone. I can come with you. No, Jessica interrupted, shaking her head fiercely. I need to face this on my own. I need to find out who I'm becoming without always having someone else by my side to buffer the blow. Lisa sat back, respecting her space but with a hint of disappointment pooling in her eyes. I get that. Just know that you're not defined by anyone's opinion. Jessica held Lisa's gaze for a moment, her heart swelling and aching. I really appreciate you coming today. Thank you for being brave enough to talk to me. Anytime, Lisa replied, her smile warm despite the tension threading through their conversation. Once outside, the cool air hit Jessica's face, leaving her disoriented. She hugged her arms close, willing herself to breathe. What did Mr. Thompson want? The urgency of the matter gnawed at her insides as she walked briskly toward his office. As she turned the final corner, the familiar building loomed ahead, its tall glass windows reflecting the morning sun. Each step felt monumental. Her life was shifting, but she had no idea if it was for better or worse. Arriving at the door, she paused, her hand hovering above the handle. What would he say? What revelation could possibly await her here? Deep down, she knew she was on the brink of something pivotal, but it was terrifying. With one final steadying breath, she pushed open the door, ready to face whatever was coming. And as she stepped inside, a voice called out from the shadows. Jessica, there you are. I was just about to call you. Her heart raced again. The air thickened with possibilities, both captivating and daunting. What could he reveal that would change everything she thought she knew? The moment she stepped into the room, Jessica felt something shift in the air. Mr. Thompson stood by his desk, the faint light from the window catching the silver strands in his hair. There was a familiarity in his presence, but today it felt laced with tension. Jessica, he began, his voice steady but carrying an edge of urgency that made her stomach flip. I could tell you were struggling, and it seems our last conversation has lingered in your head. He gestured toward a chair, motioning for her to sit. She hesitated, uncertainty swirling within her. What do you want to talk about? Jessica's words spilled out, sharper than she intended. Please, just sit down. There was warmth in his command, a slight smile that hinted at his true intentions. She settled into the chair, her hands tightly clasped in her lap as she tried to calm her racing heart. First, congratulations are in order, he said, leaning back in his seat, hands folded thoughtfully. Your blog has garnered quite a following. People are connecting with your words. You have a gift. A flicker of pride ignited in her chest, chasing away some of the unease. Thank you, she replied, feeling slightly less on edge. She had put so much into her writing, and even this small recognition soothed her nerves. But, he continued, the smile slipping away, there's more to it than just that. I wanted to discuss the direction your content is taking. I've noticed a change in voice over the past few months. You seem hesitant, my dear. Jessica shifted in her seat. I've been going through a lot, she admitted, the words tumbling out as her defenses crumbled. I'm not sure I can keep this up. It feels like I'm constantly judging myself, comparing to everyone else out there. What if I let them down? He leaned closer, his demeanor softened by genuine concern. It's natural to feel that way. But I want you to remember that vulnerability in your writing is what connects you to your readers. They don't just want perfection, they want authenticity. His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket. But I'm scared, she confessed, her voice barely audible. What if my honesty isn't enough? What if it's too much? Jessica, Mr. Thompson said, his voice unwavering. You are enough. The doubts you face now can either anchor you, or they can push you to soar higher. Let your fears inspire your freedom. She let that sink in, feeling her heart swell with a mix of hope and fear. Hope that perhaps he was right, and fear of the unknown that awaited her both in her writing and in her life. As she absorbed his words, she felt a spark ignite that she had thought extinguished. But I called you here today for another reason, he added, disrupting her musings. The weight of his gaze shifted, turning serious again. I have a proposition for you. Her curiosity piqued. What do you mean? Mr. Thompson leaned forward, eyes intense with sincerity. A chance to write for a larger platform, something that will truly showcase your potential. But it's not just about the blog. It's about the stories that need to be told, your stories. Breathless, Jessica felt an amalgamation of fear and excitement whirl inside her. Was this the moment that could reshape her future? But what if I fail? She murmured, instinctively pulling back. Failing is just part of learning. It's how we grow, he replied, a glimmer of encouragement dancing in his eyes. But if you don't take this chance, you may always wonder what if. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging heavily between them. Jessica's mind raced. This decision could change everything. Could she truly embrace this new path? Or would her insecurities sink her before she even tried? Suddenly, the thought of stepping back felt suffocating. What would that look like? She asked, her stomach fluttering with nervous anticipation. His smile returned, brightening the dim office. Let's make a plan. Together, we can create something extraordinary. As he spoke, Jessica's heart beat louder. Here she was at a crossroads, and the potential was intoxicating. But with all this possibility, there lingered a nagging question: was she ready to step into the unknown, to seek out her truth in a world that could be both terrifying and beautiful? Jessica swallowed hard, wondering what would she sacrifice to embrace the life she dreamed of. The words hung in the air, shimmering with potential. Jessica's mind wrestled with the enormity of what Mr. Thompson was offering. A larger platform. Her stories. Could she step up to the challenge? Together, she whispered, almost tasting the word. It felt both powerful and daunting. Yes, he affirmed, leaning in. We'll brainstorm ideas, think about what resonates with you. Your most authentic voice needs to shine through. This is your time to share the truth you've been holding back. The fervor in his eyes ignited something deep within her. Gradually, her fear morphed into excitement, like the feeling of being about to dive into a cool, welcoming pool on a hot summer day. Okay, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. Let's do it. Mr. Thompson clapped his hands together, awakening her from her moment of reverie. Fantastic. First things first, let's talk about your recent pieces. Have you touched on what makes you vulnerable, what keeps you up at night? Jessica hesitated. I'm not sure they're ready for that. My readers expect a certain image of me. That image is what keeps you from connecting with them fully. Don't you see? He leaned back, fingers steepled, conveying both challenge and encouragement. It's the rawness, the truth that makes us human. You can't shy away from that. The tension in the room cushioned her fears, now oddly comforting. Jessica felt the gentle push of Mr. Thompson's faith. It felt like encouragement wrapped in wisdom, nudging her to let go of the life she had clung to so tightly. "I'll try," she ventured, though doubt still lingered. "There's nothing else I ask, just that you stay true to yourself. Remember the stories that fueled your writing before. Think about them again. That's what the world needs." Jessica's heart pounded. Memories of late nights spent pouring her soul into words resurfaced, a tapestry of joy and heartbreak. That was the very reason she started writing in the first place. To share her experiences. To let others know they weren't alone. "Start from there," he urged, as if sensing her inner struggle. "What are topics that scare you, excite you, things you've lived through?" Jessica closed her eyes for a brief moment, her mind racing. There's a lot," she stumbled over her thoughts. "I've battled insecurity for as long as I can remember. It's hard to break free from that." "Perfect," he replied, excitement gleaming in his eyes. "That honesty will resonate. It's your first step towards liberation." As they mapped out ideas, Jessica could feel the energetic shift in the room. Each plan they crafted lifted away layers of doubt she had carried for too long. There was strength in vulnerability, she was beginning to realize. Before she knew it, hours passed, and the light in the room shifted, casting a gentle glow over their scribbled notes. Mr. Thompson stood, looking delighted. "This is just the beginning. I can see you taking this leap." Jessica smiled, the enthusiasm bubbling within her. She was almost ready to embrace her truth when her phone buzzed, pulling her attention. With a frown, she glanced at the screen. It was a message from her past. A name that stirred a wound she thought was healing. Suddenly, the newfound optimism wavered. Doubt crawled back, whispering reminders of who she used to be. Could she withstand a confrontation with the very anchor holding her back? Mr. Thompson noticed her shifting expression. "What is it?" he asked, concern lacing his voice. She hesitated but ultimately couldn't hide the turmoil. "It's someone I thought would never reach out again." "Jessica," he said, his voice firm yet kind, "whatever is weighing on you can also propel you forward. It's up to you to decide how you respond to it. This is your moment." Her heart raced. The crossroads she was standing at suddenly expanded, opening paths she never thought existed. Would she walk back into old shadows? Or would she stand tall and put her fears on the page? As the room buzzed with unresolved anticipation, Jessica's breath caught in her throat. "I need to respond," she said slowly, breaths turning shallow. Yet, one burning question churned inside her: what if this was the moment that would define her, for better or worse? Her heart thundered in her chest, mirroring the war raging within her. Jessica stared at her phone, the message glowing menacingly. The name revealed a ghost from her past. Mark, someone she had thought was long gone. Memories flooded in, the laughter, joy, and ultimately the heartbreak. What could he possibly want now? Mr. Thompson leaned in, his gaze steady and encouraging. "You have to ask yourself, is this a chance to heal or just another reminder of your pain?" Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them back. In that moment, Jessica was torn between the rush of old feelings and the newfound strength she had been learning to embrace. Did she really want to go down that road again? The fear of revisiting her past clawed at her, but the thought of letting that fear control her was even worse. As she opened the message, her finger hovering over the screen, the words "I miss us" glared back. The simple phrase rocked her world. "Don't let a few words decide your worth," Mr. Thompson said gently, but firmly. "You have the power here. Remember, your journey is about choosing how to respond, not just reacting." But could she remember that? A part of her still felt the pull of their shared past, and the thought of releasing old wounds terrified her. "What if I'm still that scared girl who dated him?" she whispered, almost more to herself than to him. "You're not," he replied, a smile softening his features. "You're here, ready to embrace your truth." Just because he's reached out doesn't mean you have to accept it the way you once did. Jessica nodded slowly, all the turmoil swirling within her. She could feel the weight of hesitation trying to anchor her down. There had been so much growth since she and Mark had parted ways. The image of her future loomed brightly ahead, shimmering with possibilities. But the chains of the past tugged insistently at her ankles. "Jessica," Mr. Thompson prompted softly, "what do you want? What feels true to you?" Taking a deep breath, she focused on her own desires instead of the fear. She tapped out a response, words forming instinctively. "It's been a long time, and I'm not sure how I feel anymore. Can we talk?" As soon as she hit send, a rush of adrenaline engulfed her. Was this how it felt to cut the strings of fear? Even if this conversation never happened, she was beginning to realize that confronting her past didn't mean sinking back into it. It was about standing tall and owning her journey to Mr. Thompson watched her with an approving nod. "There it is. You took a step fearlessly. That's half the battle. Now, let us get back to your writing." The feeling of stepping into the light surged within her, pushing shadows aside. They turned back to the fresh ideas splattered across the page. But as she wrote, Jessica felt the seeds of insecurity still digging at her heart. Would her readers accept the bare-bones truth? A deep breath came uninvited, but she refused to let it overtake her. "What if I share everything?" she mused. "Then you might inspire others to do the same," he encouraged. The words hung like a beacon before her. It became clear that her story, full of imperfections and heartaches, was truly worth telling. She could feel the creative energy pulsing through her body, igniting her spirit. Just as they were immersed in ideation, a chime echoed from her phone. Instinctively, she glanced and saw a new message illuminating the screen. It was from Mark again, and her heart stopped cold in her chest. "Can we meet? I need to explain everything." The invitation echoed through her mind, questions swirling like a tempest. Would she meet him and face more than the messy past? Or would she stay firm and cherish the brave new chapters waiting to be written? Because in that moment, with uncertainty hanging heavily in the air, one thing was clear: this decision could alter everything. Jessica felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. The room faded slightly as her thoughts spiraled into overdrive. What did Mark want to explain? Did he regret the way things ended? Did he think that time could wash away the hurt, or was he simply caught in nostalgia, yearning for the past they couldn't reclaim? Staring at the blinking cursor on her screen, she felt 1,000 what-ifs crashing through her mind. With each pulse of uncertainty, her heart ached deeper. She wanted to believe she had moved on, that she was stronger, but the idea of seeing him again. It twisted her stomach into knots. "Jessica, are you all right?" Mr. Thompson's voice broke through the fog. She glanced up to find his concerned eyes locked onto hers, his expression a mix of encouragement and genuine care. "I don't know if I can meet him," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared of what I might feel. What if I crumble in front of him? What if he hasn't changed?" He leaned back slightly, giving her space to breathe. "That's valid. But think about it, what do you really want? It's not about him, it's about you. Do you want closure? Answers? Or perhaps to see how much you have grown?" Closing her eyes, she tried to visualize the moment. A coffee shop, or maybe a park. Would they sit across from each other, awkward and tentative as they used to? Or would it be more like strangers, both changed by time and distance? What if I discover I still care? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. What if we fall back into the same patterns? Those patterns only have power if you give them permission, he reminded her gently. You have the chance to rewrite your narrative. You can decide what that reunion looks like. She took another deep breath, allowing Mr. Thompson's words to sink in. He was right, she was not the same girl who had loved recklessly, heart full of hopes and dreams that shattered too easily. She had built herself back, piece by piece, and she wasn't going to let that hard-won strength go to waste. Okay, she finally said, the word escaping as a tentative agreement with herself. I will meet him. But only if I feel like it's right. A smile crept onto Mr. Thompson's face, brightening the room. That's the spirit. Trust yourself. This is your journey, and every step is a building block. As they returned to their writing session, Jessica's mind wandered to the conversation ahead. There was still a flash of fear, a lingering doubt, but the tiniest hint of excitement flickered alongside it. She poured her emotions onto the page, feeling the words flow like lifeblood through her fingers, but when night fell and her phone chimed once more, all that bravery felt like a distant echo. Mark had replied, confirming their meeting. Tomorrow at 5. I'll be at the cafe corner. Timing grasped her by the throat. Tomorrow. It felt like a seismic shift, a prelude to so many possibilities. She couldn't shake the anxiety clinging to her but held on to the glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, this could lead to a deeper understanding of herself, and as she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, one question echoed louder than all her fears: was she ready to face the truth? The morning dawned bright, yet it felt heavy with unspoken words and potential revelations. Jessica couldn't tell which one would win. Would she step into that cafe, ready to claim her narrative? Or would she find herself lost, drifting back into the currents of old emotions? In that hushed moment, she realized this wasn't just about Mark, it was about her. The choice loomed as a new chapter was about to unfold, one she had the power to steer. Would she find strength in facing the unexpected truths waiting for her? As the morning sun streamed through Jessica's window, its gentle light filled her with a determination born from everything she had faced. Today was more than just a meeting. It felt like a crossroads, the culmination of her journey toward self-acceptance and empowerment. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of the progress she had made. She wasn't the scared girl she used to be, caged by fear and insecurity. No, today she was stepping into her own narrative. With a determined stride, she dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made her feel confident yet comfortable. The cafe loomed in her mind as both a place of confrontation and possibility. As she walked the familiar path, she couldn't shake the simmering nerves. But alongside the anxiety, there was an unyielding fire igniting her spirit. The door to cafe corner swung open, and the rich aroma of coffee enveloped her. Her eyes immediately found Mark, seated at a table in the back, his expression serious, but not unkind. Uncertainty knotted in her stomach, twisting as she approached. He looked up at her, and in that instant, time paused. All the moments they had shared flickered through her mind: laughter, sorrow, love, and eventually heartbreak. Would she see the boy she had loved, or the man he had become? "Hey," he said, his voice softer than she remembered. "Thanks for coming. Thanks for inviting me." She took a seat across from him, her heart racing in anticipation of their conversation. Mark's gaze held a hint of vulnerability, but it was laced with something else: regret. Or perhaps hope. After a brief silence, he began, "I need to apologize. For everything. I wasn't the person you deserved back then. But I've changed, and I hope you can see that." Jessica felt a whirlwind of emotions spinning within her. "I've changed too, Mark," she replied quietly. "I've spent so long rebuilding myself. You've been part of that journey. Your absence taught me about my worth." His eyes widened, surprise mingling with the weight of her words. "I understand that now. I was too wrapped up in my own issues to see how much I hurt you. I never intended to sabotage what we had." Jessica listened, her heart softening despite the barriers still standing between them. "I just want you to know I'm not that girl anymore. I won't let anyone define my worth, not even you." Fear and resolve twisted together in her voice, creating a cadence of strength. Mark leaned in, sincerity gleaming in his eyes. "And I respect that. But I'm hoping to regain your trust. To show you that I'm better now, that I can be a better person in your life if you let me." The emotions churned, and Jessica wrestled with the conflicting desires. She had built walls for a reason. But beneath those walls, perhaps there was still room for understanding. "I'm not sure what that looks like," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I need time to see if we can navigate this differently." He nodded, a cautious smile breaking across his face. "I can be patient. I just want a chance." Tension began to ebb as they delved deeper into conversation. They spoke of the time that had passed, shared their struggles and victories. The familiar spark of connection flickered back to life. Jessica felt herself smile as they laughed about old stories, but a familiar thread of caution remained woven through her thoughts. When they finally stood, ready to part ways, Mark hesitated. "Can we meet again? I want to keep talking. I mean it." Jessica's heart danced with possibility but also lingered with uncertainty. She had started to cherish her own journey, stepping boldly into the light. But just as she was beginning to walk the path of forgiveness, she realized it was essential to prioritize her own growth first. "We can meet again, but let us take it slow." Mark's face reflected understanding. "I can do that. I really just want to be a better part of your life, however that looks." As Jessica walked away, a weight lifted from her shoulders. She had faced her past and reclaimed a part of her story. The confusion had been stirred into clarity, and it felt powerful to navigate those old emotions with a new understanding. Meanwhile, throughout the days that followed, Jessica continued to write. She poured her heart into her blog, channeling her experience with Mark into a piece about forgiveness both for others and herself. The outpouring of support from her readers surged, confirming her heart's whisper that vulnerability was indeed connecting. In the weeks after the cafe, each chapter of her life fell into place like pieces of a puzzle. She would still face the critics, but she now understood the immense strength that vulnerability could cultivate. Each struggle she penned brought forth memories of encouragement from voices like Mr. Thompson's, and now, more importantly, her own. Her blog transformed into a haven for others seeking the same tenacity for self-acceptance. She reached a growing audience, creating a community stitched together not just in the shared struggles of parenthood, but in the real conversations about triumph over adversity, the bond of uncovering their truths. With each new post, Jessica found a renewed sense of confidence. And through it all, she constantly reminded herself, this was her journey, never again to be dictated by someone else's vision of her life. As she continued to heal and build connections, she felt the richness of life wrap around her like a vibrant tapestry, as she marched forward with intention. Something shifted profoundly within her, and she could feel the warmth of hope guiding her toward uncharted territories. In sharing her story, she had found her place in the world, lit by the brilliance of her own voice, and that voice. It was just beginning to resonate. As you reflect on this inspiring journey of transformation, remember to be part of our community. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that can change your life. Leave a like right now, your support fuels our algorithm and helps us grow. Comment below with your feelings about Jessica's journey. What did it stir within you? And don't wait not even one more second, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message of hope and strength. Only true fans understand the importance of lifting each other up.